Today we're going to estimate and subtract whole numbers. In order to do this, we need to understand what estimate means. Estimate, or an estimate, is a number close to an exact amount. So we are going to estimate the difference right here. And difference is a word that's meant to signify a subtraction problem. So as you can see down here, we have 134,567 subtract 53,610. And we're going to estimate the difference. So we're just going to find the answer that would be not the exact amount, but a number close to the exact amount. We're going to do that by looking at our 134,567 and rounding it. Now we can round to the nearest 100,000, or we could round to the nearest 10,000. I'm going to go with 10,000 on this because my second digit, or my second number down here, only goes up to 10,000. So I'm going to round to the nearest 10,000. So with that, I am going to go ahead and begin rounding. Now I am going to underline my 10,000s digit because I decided to go with 10,000. So I underline my thousands digit. I'm going to look next door. And if we use the same line to our poem for rounding as we've used in the last like 3 videos, we're going to go, we look at our number, we look right next door. If it's 4 or less, we ignore. If it's 5 or more, we add 1 more. So because this is 4 or less, our number's 4, so it's less, or 4 or less, then we're going to ignore. So we're just going to use our 3. And so we're going to come over here and we're going to write our 3. And then the 1 for the 100,000s place is going to remain. And anything to the right of the 3 is going to turn to zeros. So we're going to put a 0, 0, 0 for the thousands place, 0 for the hundreds, tens, and ones. And let's put in my comma there. So 130,000. Now we're going to go to our second number, and our second number is 53,610. And we're going to round this to the nearest 10,000. So we're going to underline our 5, because that's our 10,000s place. We're going to look next door. Look right next door. If it's 4 or less, we ignore. If it's 5 or more, we add 1 more. So this is 4 or less. 3 is less than 4, so we're going to ignore. We're going to take our 5 there then, and we are going to, it's going to stay as a 5. So 5, and everything to the right turns into a 0, so we're going to have zeros. We're going to fill the rest in with zeros. It gives us 50,000. Now we subtract to find out our estimate. So 0 subtract 0, 0, 0 subtract 0, 0, 0 subtract 0, 0, 0 subtract 0, 0. 3 cannot subtract 5 because 3 cannot subtract 5. We have to borrow. So we're going to come over and we're going to regroup this 1. And we're going to create it a 13 up there. So 13 subtract 5 is 8. And so our estimate would then be 80,000. So our estimate is that 134,567 subtract 53,610 is going to be close to 80,000. Now we could find the exact amount to C, and I'm going to go ahead and do that. So we're going to go ahead and look over here, and we're going to find the exact amount in C. So we're going to start in our ones column with our subtracting. And we're going to go 7 subtract 0 is 7. 6 subtract 1 is 5. 5 subtract 6. 5 cannot subtract 6. So we're going to have to come over here, and we're going to have to borrow or regroup from our thousands there. We're going to take 10 from our thousands there. We're going to take And we're going to take our 5 there, and it's going to become a 15. And our 4 there is going to become a 3. So now we have 15 subtract 6, which is 9. Then we have our 3 subtract 3, which is 0. And our 3 subtract 5. 3 cannot subtract 5, so once again we have to regroup. So we're going to take away our 1 right there. And it's going to give us a 13. 13 subtract 5 is going to give us an 8. And our answer then is our actual total, or the difference, is 80,957. So as you can see, 80,957 is close to 80,000. So this was a reasonable estimate. On our next example here, we are going to estimate and solve once more. So we are going to find our estimate by finding or by rounding our numbers here. And I'm going to stick with the 10,000 because it's the largest number that we have there. So we're going to stick with our 10,000 here. And I'm going to look at my 6 there, find my number, and I'm going to look next door. If it's 4 or less, we ignore. So because that is less, 3 is less than 4, I'm going to ignore it, and I'm just going to move over my 6. So I'm going to end up with 60,000. And then I'm going to come down here to my 29,452, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to underline my 10,000s place. I'm going to then look next door. If it's 4 or less, we ignore. If it's 5 or more, we add 1 more. 9 is more than 5, so we're going to add a 1 to our 2. 2 plus 1 is 3. And then everything to the right becomes zeros. So we get our estimation problem here, which is 60,000 subtract 30,000. And so we have 0, 0, 0, 0. 6 subtract 3 is 3. That gives us 30,000 as our estimate. So I'm just going to write that up here under our estimate. And kind of edit right there where I made that look like almost like a 6. Now we're going to subtract these numbers. It's very important that we know whether or not we're adding or subtracting, so we have to look here at the symbol. It is subtraction, so we do need to subtract. So we are going to take our 4 in our ones column. You always want to start at the right. Always start at the right side when we're subtracting. Never start with the left side. It's really hard to borrow if you're starting with your left side. Always start at the right side. So we're going to subtract. 4 subtract 2 is 2. 2 subtract 5. 2 cannot subtract 5. We cannot take 5 away from 2. And we don't want to look at this backwards, as we can't then subtract the 2 from our 5 because our 2 is in the larger number. So we need to borrow or regroup. So we're going to come over here to our 8 in our hundreds column, and we're going to steal 10 from there. So we're going to, there we go. We're going to cross off the 8. The 8 then becomes a 7. Our 2 then becomes a 12. No, that didn't look very good. Our 2 then becomes a 12. 12 subtract 5 is 7. And 7 subtract 4 is 3. 3 subtract 9. We can't do that. Once again, we have to regroup. So we're going to take our 6 here. We're going to regroup that down to a 5. And we're going to get a 13 here. 13 subtract 9 is 4. And then we have our 5 subtract 2. 5 subtract 2 is 3. And we get 34,372. And we know for sure that this is reasonable. Our estimate is reasonable because if we were to round 34,372 to the nearest 10,000, we would get 30,000. So it's a really good estimate. On our next one here, we have 14,659 subtract 11,584. And on this one, I'm going to form an estimate by rounding to the nearest 1,000. So I'm going to then highlight my one digit that's in the thousands, which is the 4 for that first one. And I'm going to look right next door. If it's 4 or less, I ignore. If it's 5 or more, I add one more. So because I have a 6 here, I'm going to add one more. So that is going to give me a 5 in my thousands place. I'm then going to bring over my 1 and turn the rest to the right to zeros. 0, 0, 0, giving me 15,000. Then I'm going to look at my second number. I have a 1 in the thousands place. I'm going to look right next door, and I have a 5. A 5 is 5 or more, so we're going to add one more. And so we're going to take our 1 here, and we're going to add another 1 to it, which will give us a 2. So we're going to write a 2 in the thousands place, and bring over our 1 and add in our zeros. So everything that's to the right turns into a 0. Then I can subtract. So that gives me a 0, 0, 0. 5 subtract 2 is 3, and 1 subtract 1 is 0, which will give me a 3,000. So my estimate of 14,659 subtract 11,584 is 3,000. Now I'm going to subtract. So I'm going to take once again, starting off in the ones column, I'm going to take our 9 and I'm going to subtract 4. 9 subtract 4 is 5. And then we move into the tens column. 5 subtract 8. 5 cannot subtract 8, so we need to regroup. So we're going to cross off our 6 there. Our 6 is going to become a 5. And our 5 is going to become a 15. 15 subtract 8. That is going to give us a 7. And then we have our 5 in the hundreds column. Subtract 5, which is going to be 0. And in our thousands column, we have 4 subtract 1, which is going to give us a 3. And in the 10,000s column, we have 1 subtract 1, which will be 0, giving us a difference of 3,075. On this next example, we are going to estimate and solve once more. As you notice, though, they have this laid out horizontally, and it's never really good to subtract horizontally because we can mess up our place values. So we are going to rewrite this so that it's lined up vertically. And so we have our first number, which is 942,385. And then we have our 61,000. Now, because I'm doing my 61,000 there, I am going to actually start with my ones digit with our 3 over here and laying it out right underneath our ones place right here, just to make sure that I have my numbers lined up perfectly and I'm looking at each place value correctly. So I'm going to start over here at the far right with my 3, which is in my ones column. and my 0 in the tens column, 8 in the hundreds column, a 1 in the thousands column, and a 6 in the 10,000s column. Notice I have 61,803, 61,803. I have it lined up, so now I can set up my problem there. Okay, so now we are going to estimate our answer. So we're going to estimate our answer by rounding, and I'm going to round to the nearest 10,000 because my lower one here, my second number here, my highest digit is the 10,000. So I'm going to round to the nearest 10,000, and I'm going to, on my first number, I'm going to underline the 10,000th digit, and then I am going to look right next door. If it's 4 or less, we ignore. If it's 5 or more, we add 1 more. It is 2, so it's less than 4, so we're just going to ignore and bring over our 4. So we're going to write our 4 right over here for our 10,000s digit. Then we're going to go ahead and bring over our 9 because our 9 is to the left of the 4, and everything to the right of that turns into 0. So we have a 0 for our thousands place, 0 for hundreds, tens, and ones. Now we're going to go down to our second number, and in our 10,000s place, once again, I'm going to underline the digit, and then I'm going to look next door. If it's 4 or less, we ignore. If it's 5 or more, we add 1 more. In this case, it's 1. 1 is less than 4, so we're going to ignore, and we're going to just bring over our 6. So, and we want to make sure we line this up perfectly in the 10,000s place. We bring over our 6, and then we fill in our zeros for all the numbers or all the digits to the right, and then we subtract. This is going to give us 0, 0, 0, 0. 4 cannot subtract 6, so we're going to regroup. We're going to borrow. That 9 then is going to become an 8. Our 4 there is going to become a 14, and 14 subtract 6 is going to be 8. And then our 8 that we have left over there, we're going to just bring straight down because 8 subtract 0 is 8. And that gives us a 880,000 as our estimate. Now we are going to solve our actual problem. So, coming over here, in our ones place, once again, we always want to begin with the ones place. And we are going to subtract. 5 subtract 3 is 2. 8 subtract 0 is 8. 3 subtract 8. 3 cannot subtract 8, so we need to regroup. We're going to take our 2, and it's going to become a 1, and we're going to get 13. 13 subtract 8 is 5. 1 subtract 1 is 0. 4 subtract 6. 4 cannot subtract 6, so we have to borrow once again. We're going to take away from the 9. The 9 then becomes an 8, and our 4 becomes a 14. 14 subtract 6 becomes an 8, and a 8 subtract 0 will be an 8. So as you can see, we get 880,582. And that is how we solve subtraction problems.